Welcome back, guys. It's Hybrid Spectre. Today I'm going to be reading another lore book for you guys. It's going to be the Forsaken Prince under the Darkness tab. And this one is going to be a pretty long read, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to split it up into two parts. So I'm going to read the first 11. We're going to stop at After the Fall, and then part 2 is going to be from Kings to Free. So this is part 1, and part 1 and part 2 will be uploaded directly behind this one. So, without further ado, let's get into this. The Forsaken Prince, Aldrin Sav. The Length of a Chain, Part 1. Jolyon, my man, Aldrin Sav whispers, you and I are going to take the Black Garden. Oh yeah? Jolyon tell the righteous. Famous among crows, sniper, scout, and teller of tales, lies full sprawl prone at Aldrin's side. The scrubbed-down length of a supremacy rifle snugged against his shoulder nearly doubles his height. I heard you and I are going to float Saturn in a bathtub. I'm serious, Joel. And you'll be dead serious if you go to Mars, hardy har har. Target range 2,900 meters. Wind in rotation. Wind 21 kilometers per hour. From your 3 o'clock. You are 2 degrees off spin north. I'm going though. I really am. You've got to come. You'll never live it down if you miss this one. I'll never live anything down if I'm dead. Shot ready. Send it, Aldrin says. The supremacy booms and kicks into Jolyon's shoulder. Aldrin doesn't even bother to check that it's a bullseye. You've been with me on all the big ones, Joel. I can't do it without you. Besides, he opens his hand to reveal the ejected cartridge snatched from midair Cobra quick. If we don't do it, some Guardians will. And the next thing you know, Mara will be inviting them in to do crow work. Joel rolls onto his right flank to regard Aldrin. The Master of Crows grins his winningest. Jolyon till the righteous squints and slaps the mag release one-handed. Aldrin catches it. You're a lot like your sister, Jolyon sighs. Except that when she plays dirty, she doesn't smile so big. I got all the charm in the family. Aldrin waits patiently for Joel to work the bolt and eject the chambered round. He usually wins this little game. Usually. But sometimes Joel surprises him. Nobody's ever been inside the garden. Imagine what we'll find. Nameless horrors. They're all nameless when nobody's named them, Joel. Nobody's ever been. Isn't that enticing? No. Because your sister has forbidden it, Aldrin. That, he says cheerfully, is how I know it's worth doing. And because the awoken people will throw out another tale of his narrow survival, Mara has never really understood how much heroes matter to people. A queen is an indispensable thing, but a hero, now you know what he wants, when he's lost, and when he's won. Length of a Chain, Part 2. Their departure is meant to be secret. Nobody will turn out, he assures Joel. We'll slip away at zenith. By the time anyone catches on, we'll be arrow breaking into Meridian Bay. You're insufferably cocky, Joel says, and by the time we go, the whole city will know you're up to something. They will not. When they set out for their ship, they find the promenades and galleries aswarm with cheering throngs of Aldrin's fans and followers. He waves and waves, turning, grinning in a better mood than he will maybe ever be again. And if one dark mote burns within him, it is the fear and certainty that these people love him only because he is closest to their queen. Do they ever ask themselves why he's constantly breaking her rules? Why he always ventures so far from her? He wants his sister's approval. He knows and accepts that. But he wants her approval for something she did not anticipate, did not plan or foresee, and did not account for. He wants her to thank him with surprise. If you hurl yourself away from someone to test the length of your chain, you cannot know the chain's length until it draws you short. Does that make sense? Aldrin thinks so. Aldrin is afraid so. Either he is truly free of his sister, free to choose to stand at her side, to choose of his own free will, or the chain is longer than he has managed to run. At the Gate, Part 1. Give Uldren Sov the chance to torment a Guardian, and he will take it faster than you can shout. Rasputin shot the Traveler, an opinion he lobs into Guardians' minds whenever he can. He hates the Traveler's horseflies, the way anyone would hate an infant godling issued with coloring book morality and a whining, know-nothing paperweight. They are self-righteous, cocksure, callously instrumental intruders in a system they don't need to understand. He hates that most, the ability to move through the world without caring about how it works. So he's done everything to Guardians he can think of. Shot them up, shot them down, sent them on doomed quests, dunked their ghosts in intolerably stinky selenophenol, drilled holes to bury their obnoxious patrol beacons inside solid rock, tricked them into disassembling mighty weapons. But every time he gets into a gunfight, he wonders what it might be like to do this without any sheer raving terror. Jolyon, he hisses as the goblin's downslope lobs another slap grenade his way. Jolyon, where are you? Nothing. The grenade detonation pops Uldren's ears and pushes ozone up his sinuses so hard that he sneezes. The goblin fires at the sneeze. Glassy shards of melted sand ricochet off his cover and shatter into chiming airbursts. He is 300 meters upslope. Guardians, armed Cabal, and fearless Vex may fight at point-blank range. Mere mortals still hang back so far they can barely see their targets. The infernal thing about Vex is that they teleport. Uldren's not sure if he's pinned down by 10 goblins or 1. A bullet cracks past. At the Gate, Part 2. Radiolarian fluid splashes on the sand. I got it, Jolyon radios breathless. But I'm pretty sure I also got made. Confirmation arrives in a fusillade of Cabal mortar shells, smart munitions that home in on the sound of the rifle shot. Usually the Cabal do not waste them against the Vex. Some Centurion must be eager to use her toys on a target that won't teleport away. Uldren sucks air in relief when Jolyon clicks his transmit switch to signal he's okay. Uldren gets up, panting. He can just see the gate to the garden. Everyone knows where it is, sure. It's just getting inside that's the trick. The air blurs, a roiling cloud of vacuum flux blocks his view, and then, in a blast of discharge, a Vex Minotaur strides into existence. Uldren curses, throws a jamming grenade, and runs. There's gotta be a better way to do this, he gasps. Any ideas? Only the one you don't like. Thread the gate with a ship coming at Mach 20. The gate's not active. Even if we made it through the Cabal guns, we need to trick the Vex into opening the door. That means killing a Gate Lord with just our personal weapons. No, it doesn't, Uldren breathes. I have a princely idea. This is what Uldren lives for. Skittering past death, brushing its whiskers, leaping away from that toothy maw. Break contact. We need stealth now. Then we need to pick up a few unfortunate targets. Through the gate. They crawl belly down across the Martian desert like worms. Active camouflage ponchos break up their outlines. The roaming Cabal harvesters growl on the horizon. For the last 8 hours, Jolyon has been picking off Cabal infantry with his rifle, fleeing the eruption of automatic counterfire. Uldren has listened on cracked battle nets as mightier weapons are invoked and brought to bear. The war machine is now inflamed, swollen with outrage. Jolyon touches Uldren's ankle, fingertips drum out code. How far? 50 meters, Uldren whispers. If the Vex know we're here, they haven't. The air prickles, subsonic groans of power stir in the sand. Something mighty awakens above them. Never mind, Uldren mutters. The Vex have now reacted. He throws off his poncho, rising with revolver and deflection grenade in his fists. Screaming challenge. Jutting from the Martian desert before them is the canted, fringed hoop that is the Black Garden's gate, huge enough to swallow a fallen skiff. It thrills with infinite energy. Out of that aperture emerges the behemoth silhouette of a Vex Gate Lord. Metal and mind, crashing together, self-assembling, ready to defend this secret place. The Vex are born here, in the sense of baptism, consecrated to the service of some terrible purpose that the machines found within. "Hey, big guy," Aldrin shouts. "Over here." Calmly, carefully, Julian Tilda reaches, begins to fire his rifle straight up into the sky. The reports of the Supremacy's huge cartridges spill out across the dunes. The Gate Lord towers above them. Aldrin whoops and hip-fires a couple rounds into the sand at its feet. "Can you dance, sir?" he bellows. "Have you got the footwork?" Inside the Vex entity, there are mighty algorithms constructing a model of this merely temporal place, calculating potential threats, weighing the utility of weapons discharge against the good that power might do elsewhere. This computation is the only reason Aldrin's still alive. The bone mic tuned to Cabal tactical channels wakes up at Aldrin's throat. They have localized the sound of Julian's rifle and are responding. He hollers up at the Vex behemoth and starts to jig. "It's going to rain on Mars. It's monsoon season in Meridian Bay. Did you see the forecast?" He grabs Joel by the hand and pulls. Together they sprint towards the Gate Lord and its charge. The Vex machine must know what's coming, but it has to weigh the certainty of Cabal against the tiny possibility of these microbiotic motes slipping into the gates. The Gate Lord raises a weapon to obliterate them. They skid into the gate's threshold, and Aldrin activates the deflection grenade so hard he nearly breaks his thumb. A deflection sphere of topologically defective space-time blinks into being around him. He holds Julian close, and together they calm their breath. The barrier is impenetrable, but it will not last long. Until then, there is only so much air to breathe. Outside, the full fury of the Cabal fleet carrier lands on the Gate Lord. When the barrier fades, the Gate Lord is dead, and Aldrin and Julian are no longer on Mars. In the garden. Aldrin and Julian huddle together, shivering beneath a canopy of white tongues. The rain pours down. Aldrin can't tell where it comes from exactly. Somewhere up in the green mist. But the rain falls and falls, and he and Julian turn their heads up to drink. Here at the bottom of a chasm between two flower fields, where the garden's immaculate surface divides into tropical feeder. "Everything grows here," Julian mutters. "Look at your nails." Aldrin studies his hand. He has the dreadful image of his fingernails developing into tight, down-curved loops that curl around back into his fingers, completing a hideous circuit to their root. It's awful, and yet it's wonderful, in a transgressive way, in a newborn, screaming way. It speaks to him of new and secret things happening here. "They're dirty," he says, "but I trust you'll forgive me on that account. Rain's not letting up. Shall we move?" "Aye." Julian hauls himself up with a fistful of slithering vines. They try to coil around his wrist. Tiny teeth shaped like letters saw at his skin. He stares at them and starts to say something and jerks his arm away. "Are you all right?" "For now," Julian mutters. "For now." They move down the length of the chasm, green mist swirling overhead, ankle-deep in wet compost of flower petals and rich black soil. Wide, flat beetles with arcing horns wrestle in the earth. Aldrin flips one on its back. The beetle has no interior. Seen from below, it's just a hollow shell. Aldrin pulls up a fern, and its roots are the branching metallic threads of a circuit board. Tiny squirming things, shaped like wet microchips, mill in the exposed soil. "I don't like this place," Julian whispers. "We should get back to the surface." He means the garden surface, the manicured sectors of the red flowers that stretch away toward the distant mesa. But it's far too Vex up there, Aldrin thinks. They've been in here, gardening, moving earth, making walls, building their ancient constructs of stone and light, trying to tame this place. "It's life," he breathes. "You're right, Joel. Everything grows here." He cannot let this place be killed. He cannot let it be looted, and overthrown like everything else that doesn't fit into the narrow binary dogmas of the Traveler's undead warriors. Excitement seizes him, and he runs ahead, sloshing through the muck, laughing aloud. "Aldrin!" Julian shouts after him. "What are you looking for?" "I don't know," he cries back. "That's what's so incredible. I can't know." On the hunt. They track the last Cabal soldier from the place of carnage, onward through the flower fields, following the dribble of black oil that escapes the wounded legionary pressure tourniquets. Aldrin moves with cold, vigorous, vicious anger. War here in the garden. Petty, detestable war, brought into this place by some blundering Cabal expedition. They deserved what they got. The garden must be left to tend itself, mustn't it? It must be allowed to evolve its secret fruits. The terrain dips. The red flowers fade away to low, woven grasses. The wind whispers, soft words, sentences with just the beginnings of syntax, the cadence almost musical. "Brain stain," Julian whispers, fearing infection by a contagious idea. "We should," but his voice trails off as Aldrin pushes ahead down into a low vale, slipping easily through the tangled undergrowth. Vex. There are Vex here, dozens of goblins and minotaurs, still as statues and covered in moss, in a ring like some robotic henge. They are singing in faint, wraith-like notes of inhuman clarity. Aldrin knows what this place must be. The Cabal legionary huddles behind a stone. Aldrin creeps forward. By the time the wounded bellowing thing knows he's there, he has a knife pressed to his helmet, right above the cleft of his lips and the soft tissues below. "Don't move," he says. He says in Ularant, "Don't speak. This knife is atom sharp." "I can tell," the legionary grunts in its native tongue. "It's right up to me eyes. Practically shaving me bristles." "Do you know where you are?" "Just about the worst place anyone's ever gone." "You say that because you can't smell the air," Aldrin says. "It's sweet, like pollen and thunder. Why did you come here?" "Not by any chance of our own, sir. The milk robots abducted us." The whispers have taken on a soft hint of Ularant grammar, conferring Aldrin's suspicions. This is a place where abstract patterns war for survival, fighting to propagate themselves by preying on each other. The Vex are singing to see how the garden changes their song, and even this conversation has fertilized the air. Why are they here? What do they want? "They come here to pray, sir. They're making vessels out of themselves. They're the worst things ever to be, sir. They hate existence." "How do you know this?" "Oh, from the seeds, sir," the legionary says. "Do you see them?" And without hesitation or second thought, he punches the emergency medic release on his helmet. The pressure seal breaks and a ring of black gel sprays out, hissing. The legionary slumps over, his helmet tumbles into his broad lap. Beneath the layer of gel, the whole surface of his skull has the pitted texture of a strawberry. Thousands of tiny seeds glisten in the Cabal's flesh. Aldrin brushes the skin in fascination. "Aldrin," Julian radios, "I really don't like the expression on your face." "This place has secrets," the prince mutters back. The bone mic feels cold and inorganic, poorly mated to his flesh. Compared to the warm, close-packed pits of the legionary's deformed skull. So many secrets. They grew in him, Julian. The garden grew its secrets in him. "Who gives a rat?" Julian snaps. "Your Highness, we've got to get out of here before whatever happens to them happens to us, too." He's afraid of secrets, Aldrin realizes. The unknown terrifies him. Which is very sensible, very rational. The attitude of a good scout, a good soldier, a survivor. But Aldrin can't stop imagining how astonished Mara would be at this place. What if he could bring her here? What if they could explore this place together? After the Heart, Part 1. "Mara, I picked you flowers." The Queen's retinue parts before Aldrin. Astonished eyes flicker between his face, his wounds, and the potted flowers cupped in his hands. Some of them see a madman and reach for weapons before they remember that this is Uldren Sov, Prince of the Awoken, beneficiary of the Queen's limitless indulgence. Asphodelia is its name. He kneels and offers it to his sister. It grew only in the Black Garden, until today. We will plant it here in our dominion, where I know it will take root and flourish. It will remind the people of our twin heritage. For a terrible moment, Mara is unreadable. Then she smiles and beckons. Our brother has attained the Black Garden and returned to us. Come forward. She peels a single petal from the flower and lays it across her fingertip. Holds it to the light. Magnificent. Ilin, see to it. She passes it off. Uldren swallows protest. He'd hoped she might plant it herself. Afterward, in private, she is silent and still. He tells her everything he remembers. Did you see the heart? She asks softly. After the heart, part 2. The heart, Uldren considers his sister's question. After a while, his memories become confused. He was running through a thorny grove, and the branches and prickles were tearing at his cheeks. Huge wet fruit slapped against his shoulders and detonated in an overripe pulp. Fruit shaped like heavy, swollen ghosts. He was huddled with Julian beneath a thick cobweb, holding his breath as they listened to voices argue just outside. His heartbeat. Was it his heartbeat or another's? He was in an apartment block. He remembers that. He was sitting in the laundry room, a place with a black and white checkered tile floor, watching his crows tumble over and over in the dryer. Black feathers flurrying, beaks clacking. A big old female cabal sat in a tub to his left, scrubbing her back with a wire brush. A vexed goblin with the face of Alis Lee in its stomach stood behind the counter selling detergent. Uldren, she said, you've got a hole in you. The cabal grunted in agreement. He looked down at himself, and there was a hole in his hand, black and perfectly round. His dryer ran out of time, but his crows were still wet. Uldren, Mara is shaking him. She does not ordinarily touch anyone. Did you see the heart? It seems the most natural thing in the world that a garden should have a heart. The vex infest the place, he says. It gives them something they crave. It grows them toward what they want to be. You didn't answer my question, Mara says coolly. It's a perfectly sensible observation. It's the strangest thing Uldren has ever said. Whatever the heart of that place is, he says, pacing, it's a seed. I think a seed left behind to grow, like a node of glimmer. Or the idea strikes him as a thunderbolt, or a tripwire, bait to attract those who seek out and destroy what they don't understand. Bait for guardians, bait to mark some milestone in the traveler's recovery. I told you never to go there, Mara says. Her eyes burn. She draws her cloak tight. Are you not devoted to me? Sister, he says, of course I am. Yet you defy me. Yes, Uldren thinks. Yes, aren't those the same thing? How could you care at all for something How could you care at all for something that never surprises you? He feels suddenly and utterly alone. Julian. When he sees Julian in the arsenal, the realization of his own sheer, unbelievable, inconsiderate, disgraceful boorishness makes Uldren gasp aloud in horror. Hey, he calls roughly. He's not sure how to apologize. He hasn't spoken to Julian since the return of the garden. Since the return from the garden. He didn't commend Julian to the Queen or throw him a feat for his bravery or even ask if he was sleeping all right after everything. He forgot about them. Hey, Julian says, not looking up. You weren't at the range yesterday. Oh. You don't even need a spotter, Uldren says, trying to tease him. But it comes off flat and dismissive. I've been, dreaming. Recording his dreams. Poring feverishly through the origin libraries, searching for confirmation of what his heart wants so desperately to be true. the future of the Awoken that could lie in the garden. There is a wellspring of light on Earth, a blinding beacon that will only grow brighter. The Awoken will not survive, not as they are. Mara's vision and the truth of their origin will be lost, diluted by the anodyne philosophy of the city-born idealeagues. But the Guardians will kill everything they find. What if the Guardian is the Traveler's antithesis? What if the Awoken can find in the garden a new place of balance, an equal potential between darkness and light? As the light brightens, the shadows deepen. Jolyon is saying something. Sorry, Aldrin grunts, fussing with his revolver. What was that? I said we should talk about what happened in there. Yes! He realizes now how afraid he was that Jolyon wouldn't see the significance of the place. Revulsion and fear. Yes, natural response, but he must see past them. Yes, we've got to record all our observations before they fade. I should have asked you sooner. Aldrin, I don't want anyone to know what we saw. Oh. This kindles a little bonfire of warmth in his gut. Of course. No one else has to know. Our shared secrets, I wish I didn't remember what I saw, Jolyon says, fumbling his rifle's firing pin. It hits the floor like a dull chime and rolls under his bench. He doesn't go after it. And I don't keep secrets. Aldrin thinks about this for a moment. The profound truth of it hits him like a cold wind. You don't, do you? Jolyon knows exactly where he was born, to what lineage. His capabilities as a marksman are public record. As one of Aldrin's crows, he flies dangerous surveillance missions, but he is not a covert operative. Aldrin knows everything about him. You gonna be at the range tomorrow? Jolyon asks too casually. Thought we might shoot a few magazines. Not tomorrow, Aldrin says. I have work to do. He is already trying to imagine how Mara would react if he tries to turn the Oracle engine on the garden. The things he might learn, the things she will surely want to know. After the fall. She is gone. He lives now in a state of perpetual dread. He hates the future because he fears it. He fears its emptiness, and he cannot imagine lonely eternity without her. As he staggers down the edge of the Martian chasm, he can feel the drop calling to him, begging him to join her. To end it all, the heat of the place soaks him in sweat. The dead chassis of one of his old crow drones slung over his back feels like it's compressing his ribs, pushing his lungs up against his sternum, expelling his breath. He needs the drone to fix his ship again. He must get off Mars. He must start looking for her. The weight of the crow drone slams him down on his hands and knees. His vision swims, stars and shining harbingers soaring through the ring plane in a wall of terrible light. And he sees the moment the dreadnought took everything from him. The moment his sister finally, absolutely, utterly ran out of secret plans. That instant when all sound ceased and he screamed denial. And yet, in spite of his soul's plea to die with her, reached for the deflection shield that saved his life. He sprawls until he can't resist, until he can rest in the shadow of a dead Vex block. He crashed in the Kandor Isles, not so far from the gate to the garden, the place where he saw another path for the Awoken. Why had Mara never accepted his invitation? He has been hearing her, thirst hallucination surely, but there is that hum, that whisper, that thrill of starlight in his skull. A flock of his crow drones found his crash site and repaired his fighter. He made it halfway to orbital velocity before a Cabal gun clawed him out of the sky and sent him crashing down in Hellas Basin. Now his crows are dead, and the fighter is probably beyond repair, and his sister is gone. His sister is gone. And he followed her, and all his people followed her, because he and they were sure she had a plan. She always had a plan. Something better than dying by the thousands for a city that does not care. He should go home. He should go home, if he can find a way. But will he have the strength? He cannot be the champion they loved. They cannot restore their faith in the purpose of the Awoken, or in his sister's design. He no longer believes. The world is now a carcass. The world is a carcass now. The scars of the Guardian's passage. Cabal fortresses reeking of decay, littered with flesh and bone and broken armor. The shattered chassis of Vex littering the sands, a place of death and war. A war that tilts on the fulcrum of the Traveler brought upon it by the puppets of that Traveler. That fulcrum of war. There is something in his eye. He blinks and blinks, trying to rub it away, and as he does, he struggles to hear her, to sense that prickle of starlight under his skin. She will tell him he is on the right path. She will tell him she is alive. She's still alive. He feels nothing. So, that is part 1 of the Forsaken Prince. When I come back to this, we will be on part 2. We'll start from Kings, all the way up to Free Me. So, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys in part 2.